session on registered apprenticeship. I'm going to go around and have you guys raise your hands about what sector you're representing so you kind of know who is with us today. If you are from an educational provider, so like high schools, raise your hands. Okay. What about community colleges or secondary? Okay. Government? Business? What did I miss? Where are you two from?
Middle school.
Middle school. Okay. Okay. And then, okay, that's next. Yep. So, how many of you have heard of registered apprenticeship before today? How many of you have a great understanding of registered apprenticeship? Okay. So before we start, we learned from our last panel that we may want to go over the main components of apprenticeship. So I'm going to turn it over to Lacey to give you the definition and then to go over the 5 components.
So a registered apprenticeship is an on-the-job training that somebody is working within a company and also getting classroom training at the same time. So with that, the 5 components of a registered apprenticeship: 1, you have to have an employer who is interested in doing a registered apprenticeship program. You have an employee who is working at least 2,000 hours on the job for every year of the program. The 3rd component is that there is classroom training that goes along with that. So for every year of the program, there's at least 144 hours of classroom training that's related to the occupation they're going into. You have an employee who is yours from day 1, and as their skills increase, their wages also increase. And then the 5th component of a registered apprenticeship is when they're done, they get a national credential that shows that they completed their program with the registered apprenticeship. So they can then take that anywhere if they do happen to be with your company. So today, with that being said, we have a panel of experts up here from some different industries, and so I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Jerry Orr, and I work for Hawkeye Community College. I am the trade and industry coordinator there, and oversee kind of the trade and industry apprenticeship programs, which include plumbing, HVAC, electrical, and carpentry.
My name is Igor. I am a business owner in Des Moines, Iowa. I own a little IT shop that has started a help desk apprenticeship a couple of years ago. We have an apprentice going through the program currently. So yeah.
Okay, I'm Tim Niesberg. I work for the Iowa Department of Corrections for roughly 36 years, just shy of 36 years, and throughout working there, toward the end of my career, I started a registered apprenticeship program with U.S. Department of Labor inside the correctional walls and training offenders while they're incarcerated to be successful and a good skill set. So with that, we started in Animal State Penitentiary, and we moved that on to statewide in 2015. It's going very well.
I'm Jeff Frost. I'm with Waterloo Schools. I'm Executive Director of Technical Professional Education, which I don't know what that means, and I'm also in charge of counseling. Basically, I oversee career and technical education and our Waterloo Career Center.
And I'm Amy Beller. I'm the Registered Apprenticeship Program Coordinator for Iowa Workforce Development. And Lacey Westendorf is our Business Marketing Specialist here in Waterloo, helping to develop and to create registered apprenticeship programs in the Cedar Valley and across the state. How many of you think that registered apprenticeship is just in the skilled trades? Good. What occupations do you think registered apprenticeship is in? Name some.
IT.
That was an easy one.
Advanced manufacturing.
Advanced manufacturing.
CNA.
Good job, Brenda. Me over here. I know you know one.
She got one.
Okay. Do you know any? Electrician. Good job. So there is traditional registered apprenticeship occupations such as electrician, plumbing, HVAC, the traditional trades that is the backbone of registered apprenticeship programs. Now we have emerging industries coming in to play, such as healthcare, IT, and advanced manufacturing. So I'm going to turn it over to Igor, and Igor is going to tell us about why he started a registered apprenticeship program for Grand Consulting in IT.
I'm an immigrant. I immigrated to the United States in '98, so 20 years now. I'm originally from former Yugoslavia. My family lived in Germany for about 7 years before moving to the United States. And in Germany, apprenticeships are a super viable track to a career path. So it's not just one path, high school, college, and then you find a job. It is actually an alternative to college. You decide actually in high school if you're going to go on to a university or pursue a trade through an apprenticeship. So in high school, you actually, which high school you go to depends on how you're going to proceed further after that. So once I moved to the United States and started my own company, I realized that the way we educate our workforce is actually pretty broken for a lot of individuals. It seems like high school, college, and then that's it. So you have to be able to afford college, you have to be from a specific demographic to be successful, to even get a shot at college. It felt like we were leaving out a large portion of our population, and there's a lot of talented, hardworking people that just either for whom college wasn't a thing or couldn't afford to go to college, or for whatever reason they never could get on that track. And apprenticeship felt like a little bit of an alternate route around that system. Actually, if I'm being honest, my career started when I immigrated here. My first job was with somebody that had a small IT company out of their town, or out of their house. And they hired me in high school to help them out. And I'm a Drake graduate, but I'll be honest, the training and the job that I had in high school had a greater impact of where I am today than my Drake education. So my partner currently has a couple of years in community college, but really he started in IT with us 6-7 years ago, and I'm the one that trained him up to where he is today. And then we have an apprentice currently that's 2 years into the program who had no IT experience prior, would not have had a chance to get into IT were it not for the program that we started. And we trained him up, and 2 years in, he's completing IT projects on his own. Just last week, he finished a server migration for a client without really his mentor or us needing to guide him all that much. He just, from start to finish, he handled everything himself, and 2 years ago he had zero experience in IT. So it's starting to validate, and those are some of the reasons that I decided to start something for Grand Consulting.
So Igor, what benefits has your company received by having a registered apprenticeship program?
So the main reason that we decided to start this is mostly as a onboarding track for new employees. There isn't a degree currently that somebody can complete when they apply to work for us, with us, where I can just hire them and they hit the ground running and they're good to go. There's still, depending on the individual, some 6 months to a year of just built-in training on top of their schooling for them to be fully productive in the company. So one of the longer-term benefits that we're hoping to achieve is, as we train and educate the workforce as they're leaving the apprenticeship program, they just keep going because they've been familiar with how we treat clients, what the work is, what's required and expected of them. So it's going to be a great onboarding and education tool for our employees.
That is one of the biggest benefits, is that loyalty factor.
Correct.
Bringing that employee in.
And we're hoping that he's going to say yes when we offer him a job once he's done with the program. We have no indication that he's looking to go anywhere else. I think he likes working for us and with us. And so another thing is that we're going to have a full-time employee or employee that's fully trained and familiar with the environment going forward. So.
Lastly, what message would you like to provide to other IT companies or just companies in general that are here today?
Right. This is more to everybody. Apprenticeship is kind of has a negative connotation currently. I'm hoping to change that, and the more companies offer apprenticeships in their fields and tracks, I'm hoping to change the mindset of individuals, young people and their parents, that apprenticeship could be seriously something to consider for a great career track. So I'm hoping if you have ways of convincing people into offering more apprenticeships, please do.
We're going to turn a little bit more to Iowa Department of Corrections. Iowa Department of Corrections has a really robust registered apprenticeship program. Tim, can you tell us about the program at IDOC?
Yeah, we started, I'll try to make this short. So 27 years I worked with Iowa Prison Industries and managed and ran 4 of their departments, and one of the biggest ones was manufacturing furniture and just DNR, round grills, a wide variety of things. So I would recognize these kids coming in, and they'd start out, they might be in a gang beforehand, and how that person grew over 7 or 8 years. I was lucky enough to be that person to sit there and watch that person grow and really get trained into not only a productive citizen, but a young man away from an area that he used to once know and no longer lives there. So we wanted to put him into a credential instead of just a certificate of training. So 2011, we worked with the U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Apprenticeship. We started a program in February of 2014 with 4 different occupations. And we wanted to really do the occupations traditional and non-traditional. So we have like a cook and a baker and housekeeping. Then we have electrical and the general trades and things like that that we do in welding, metal fabrication. So that was going so well, and we were seeing such great successes of people getting out with their journeyman and staying out and getting good jobs right off the bat. In fact, success stories of I personally drove an individual who was 6 weeks away from even seeing the parole board to a manufacturing plant. They hired him that day in the idea of whenever you get out, you're coming here. So that happened, doing very well, received an Iowa Job Honor Award. So we started that credential. Since then, in 2015, we've taken it statewide in all 9 correctional facilities. We've grown from 4 all the way up to 22 different occupations that we're running today, all within training inside of our correctional facilities. We're looking to add IT. We're looking to add some of the RN, CNA type stuff, that kind of thing, which is, I know is a little difficult because you got to go through that background thing, you know, when you go in nursing homes and things like that. But there's no barrier that we can't bulldoze. We can work on them barriers by training and teaching and communicating with people. We can do that. So that's kind of the background. We currently have 332 apprentices in our program. 155 have completed the program. National recidivism rate is about 68.7%. It's really high. Iowa's in that mid-30s, low to mid-30s percentile of returning to prison. Early stages of this, looks like we're well under 10% with people going through the program and then being released and getting jobs and gainful employment right off the bat. So kind of a background of what the Department of Corrections is and kind of what we're looking forward to do and go through today.
You talked a little bit about the community impact. Can you elaborate on what community impacts can come along with having a registered apprenticeship program?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing with this program. One, it changes lives, it improves families. 95% of the people incarcerated today is going to be released. 95%, which, by the way, the United States is the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world. So about 700,000 to 800,000 people are released every year back in as a returning citizen. So we want to invest and train while they're incarcerated to be successful as much as we possibly can to get these success stories going when they get out. One of the biggest things that Department of Corrections does as a number one thing is we want to make sure the priority is with the victims. How do you better serve a victim than to train the person that victimized them to get out and be productive tax-paying citizens? The smaller side of things, which is a large thing to think about, is this cost savings to us as taxpayers. It's $35,000 a year on average to an incarcerated individual in Iowa right now. So if we save them people from coming back, $35,000. You just keep multiplying that by the number of people that get released throughout time. You're in the tens of millions of dollars in time. So that's kind of where I see the impacts happening, and I think it's a great deal.
And Tim, why do you think that RA, or a registered apprenticeship, plays an important role with Iowa reaching the Future Ready Iowa goal of 70% by 2025?
Well, for one thing, registered apprenticeship, especially in Department of Corrections, fills that gap. Registered apprenticeship is a tried and true program. It's employer driven. Once that person's been through the program and has received their credential of agreement, they're guaranteed the employer 100% of that person, 100% skilled in that field. So I look at it and say, well, there's companies out there, the companies nationally that don't have an apprenticeship program is just under 25% turnover rate. Companies with apprenticeship programs actually have a 6 to 8% turnover rate. So investing in people, they want to come back and invest with you. So I look at that and say, there's 100 people in my company, there's 18 people I don't have to train. How expensive is it to train 18 people a year? How expensive is it to lose consumables and waste of those 18 people every year? So the payback is much greater than the expense in the long run and registered apprenticeship.
Thanks. So we've been talking a little bit about business owned in the Department of Corrections. So now we're going to switch over to Hawkeye Community College's role as an intermediary. So Jerry, tell us what it means to be an intermediary sponsor and how is it different than a registered apprenticeship sponsor?
We've heard a little bit about apprenticeship standards. Apprenticeship standards is another word for kind of the guidelines or rules. In that, they'll talk about responsibilities of the employer or the responsibilities as well to the apprentice, responsibilities maybe to whoever's providing the classroom training. So as a business, you have the option of having your own standards, or in our case, Hawkeye Community College has developed their own standards. Even though we don't employ anybody, we have the standards, and we have participating businesses that sign up and use our standards as their standards as well. So a little bit easier for them. They can work with me instead of working with the Department of Labor. Kind of have that local person instead of Department of Labor there's actually 3 people in the state of Iowa that cover the whole state when it comes to the Office of Apprenticeship. So a little easier to work with somebody locally than work with somebody at the Department of Labor.
And what other benefits do companies get by signing up underneath you?
Well, so convenience, of course, is one thing with working locally. Again, as an intermediary, we can put businesses together. We have about 80 businesses that are signed under our standards, roughly 180 apprentices, and we put them together in a classroom, of course. So instead of, if you had say you were a business with 1 apprentice and had to pay for that classroom training all by yourself, of course it'd be a lot more cost than if we put 10 businesses together and create a class. So cost and convenience, I would say, were two big things.
And then Brenda's in the back of the room here. She is also with Hawkeye Community College, and they have also just started a CNA registered apprenticeship program. So that's another area they're expanding into as well. But Jerry, what other messages or challenges would you like to provide to others in the audience today?
I think what I'd like to say is a little bit was brought up this morning in that panel where they talked about, I get in and it seems like a lot of different meetings with some HR people and business people, and kind of the theme you hear all the time is it's hard to find qualified people now. to hire. And then, of course, we heard about how, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years, how many the baby boomers are going to be retiring. And I know we talked to a business here a while back that had a 30-person maintenance staff, and 60% of them were 55 or older, but yet they really had no plan to replace them. So if it's hard now to find qualified people, what's it going to be when, you know, when all the baby boomers start to retire? You heard what they say today, 10,000 a day. So, you know, apprenticeship is the answer to that, but you have to start now. You can't start when all of a sudden when the crisis hits. If you get your apprenticeship program set up and start training your people, you'll have them in that pipeline as soon as one retires. You'll have that apprentice moving up to that journeyman status, and it's a great way to fix that problem.
So as you talked about pipeline, another way to build a pipeline is to do quality pre-apprenticeships. So quality pre-apprenticeships can be in the high school level, and that's why we brought Jeff in today, but they can also be at different levels. And with that, those in the quality pre-apprentice are starting to get some soft skills, they're getting maybe some classroom training out of the way, they're getting on-the-job learning experience, just different things that they can be doing with that. So Jeff, what enticed you to start looking at the quality pre-apprenticeship program for the Waterloo School District?
Well, our program at the Waterloo Career Center has 9 unique pathway programs right now for this school year. Next year we're going to add 5 new ones. Ultimately, within 2 more years, we'll have 18 or 19 distinct, what I would call pathway programs. And by pathway, it is, for example, like advanced manufacturing or sustainable construction or health careers. We know these are not streamlined programs. They're actually gateway programs. So within a program, there are multiple positions that you can have within that. The nice thing is, because it is at the high school level, they are offered as concurrent classes with Hawkeye Community College, who's been an amazing partner with us to work with on allowing our students to dive into that curriculum and learn those skills within those pathway programs. So a student literally at Hawk, with these concurrent classes out at the Career Center, can earn anywhere from 12 to 15 credits within a specific program that they have decided to take. And what happens is, we know after about 3 semesters, we can get a student through a large portion of the amount of courses that Hawkeye offers for us. So what we're looking at doing, and what we really want to kind of set up or create, is this kind of 4th semester opportunity where they could take another semester of a course at Hawkeye, where they could enter into a capstone type course, or really what we're pushing for is them to enter into what I would call, as Lacey said, it's the quality pre-apprenticeship program, where they could actually take a deeper dive into a specific program within that pathway. So, for example, Amber's from Gator, they're one of our business partners here. So if I have a student in advanced manufacturing who's basically taken all the courses that Hawkeye's allowed us to take within their realm of courses offered, and a student still shows a strong interest in doing CNC or machining or something along those lines, and they're a prime example because they actually are signed on as a registered pre-apprentice program. We could send a student out to Gator for half a day. They can still earn their high school credit. They can still get college credit. They can get paid, and they can actually potentially work towards working at Gator. They can decide to finish their Hawkeye component. They could go on to a 4-year college. What it does is it allows the student a true feel of what is taking place within that career. And they can kind of figure out, is this something I really want to do? I've taken all these courses, but until you actually do it, it's not real. And so it gives them the opportunity to get paid, to actually do the job, and to actually build resumes and all the skills that are required within that realm there, and really figure out if this is something I want to do as a career for the rest of my life.
And so what specific occupations are you looking at?
Well, like I said, we have 9 distinct programs now. We have 14 by next year. and then we'll have 18 or 19, depending on what we do with some space that we have out at our Career Center. You know, right now, obviously advanced manufacturing I've talked about is going to be part of that program. We are looking at electrical, which is coming in next year. We are looking at plumbing, our sustainable construction, which is carpentry, is part of that. That's kind of our skills trade area, which a lot of times I think people typically when they think of apprentice think of that, but we're looking at also the nursing area, actually not even nursing, we're looking at health careers above and beyond the nursing realm there. We're looking at digital areas, we're looking at IT areas. You know, I'm telling Igor he's got to keep pushing more IT people and companies to come on board here. And ultimately we really want to have basically all of our programs to have opportunities to take that deeper dive into quality pre-apprenticeship. And the only way that's going to happen truly is when we get the business community to get on board and to have those opportunities out there, like Gator's opening up and offering within those career fields. Well, other things, do you want me to add another thing? This is a push or just a suggestion for other districts. So obviously, as a large district, we have the ability to create a career center and do that. But I would tell any district, and last time we had, it's a little bit different in here because we have the schools that really are large already are sitting at the table. But if you are a smaller district, or if you're ever part of a smaller district, really push for your districts to have these same opportunities for your students. I know Jeremy's from Waverly, they have signed on and they are going to be part of the quality pre-apprenticeship, I think right now actually. So they are traveling down that pathway. The other side of that is the business community. Honestly, in order to support and maintain and sustain a apprenticeship program or a quality pre-apprenticeship program, we need to have placements available for these businesses to step up. And again, I alluded to this in the first one when Jerry said, you know, we need workers to buy, or the companies to buy into this because they can't be figuring out, hey, I have 30 people and, you know, 50% of them are 55 or over, and wow, what am I going to do in 3 years? Companies need to be proactive. They need to be thinking outside the box, and maybe some money spent now is going to pay off in the long run. You know, companies like Gator, GMT, and Waverly, you know, they're outside the box thinking companies that are looking ahead and saying, we have our workforce now, but the boomers are coming through. What are we going to do if I have 280 employees or whatever you're at now?
Or 20.
Shall we pass this? We signed our agreement. What happens when this group of people move out and I have to fill these positions, and Amber's sitting there as an HR person saying, apprenticeship and quality pre-apprenticeship is the best bargain I can do because I'm literally creating my pipeline for my next generation of workers. So you know, businesses, we need you on board because it's truly an investment in your company and in the future. And again, I don't care if you're a large school, small school, it's simple to set up and to have your students have these opportunities to take these deeper dives into the curriculum that find out they really want to do this as a career.
And I would add to Jeff's point about small and large school systems. We have Spencer all the way up in northwest Iowa. We have Waukee, we have Boone, Muscatine, Davenport, Central Campus in Des Moines, Waverly. We also have Hawkeye Community College is coming on as a quality pre-apprenticeship sponsor through the state expansion grant. So we have a lot of different entities that can have a quality pre-apprenticeship program if they're linked to a registered apprenticeship sponsor. That's the biggest thing with the quality pre-apprenticeship is that the school or that nonprofit or that organization that's providing that quality pre-apprenticeship has to be linked to somebody that's registered through the U.S. Department of Labor with the registered apprenticeship program for it to be considered a quality pre-apprenticeship program.
Jeff, how are you handling either the age restrictions or OSHA requirements or whatever in the pre-apprenticeship programs?
Well, we are just dabbling down that pathway, and I'm going to just lean on Lacey for all those insights, because actually Lacey and I have been having several conversations along with Hawkeye Community College and Career Connections with our partners there, but honestly we lean on their leadership and their expertise within that area to kind of guide us down that pathway. So it's not like if it's on me to legally take us down that pathway, we could get in trouble. If I lean on Lacey, I'm pretty confident we're going down the right path. No pressure.
Yeah. So there are, within the regulations, there are some registered apprenticeship and quality career apprenticeships. Somebody's in the program, there's some leniencies or some things that are a little bit different, so.
Okay, it depends on the occupation, that 16 or over or 18 over. We really look at what your insurance at the company actually states, because the insurers are going to be the one that really dictates if you can have somebody that's 16 or 18.
Do what?
But in order to be in a quality career apprenticeship, basically you can start as young as a freshman to even a senior in the high school, but to be in a registered apprenticeship program, you have to be at least 16 years of age or 18, depending on that occupation.
And what we're doing is we're not going to allow until their 4th semester within the sequence, would typically be their last semester of their senior year. So by then they would be 17 or 18 in most cases, I would assume, so we'd be okay.
And most programs with the quality career apprenticeship program start when they're a junior or senior. So they're freshman and sophomore year, they're still doing that career exploration, making sure that they know exactly where they want to go, and then that quality career apprenticeship just seals the deal to say, yep, this is exactly what I thought the career was going to be like.
Some really good training for career apprenticeships also is OSHA 10, doing an OSHA 10 course. Industrial safety and health kind of falls into what you're talking about. Safety is the biggest key of the manufacturers today and in the plants that they're in, you know, confined spaces and fall protection and all that stuff. Depending on where that person's going, can customize that training toward that. And most of the time, I'm guessing the company themselves that you're sending the kids to will run them through a total training course before they get started actually in the manufacturing plant.
And on the school side of things, actually the very first course that any student takes within our pathway is actually a Hawkeye course that's called, it's OSHA's training. So they literally start off with OSHA training. They will earn that certification within the first 5 days of the semester. So from that point forward, they have OSHA certified certification no matter what courses they take after that. So that's just a requirement on our side. Not a recommendation from Hawkeye per se, but a course they offer allow us to teach.
We're going to throw it open to questions to our panelists.
For Jeff Bofik, on the OSHA certification, is that OSHA industry sector specific, or is it just a blanket overall OSHA certification?
It is a blanket it's industry 108, so it's the blanket industrial certification.
Okay, and on the business side, just a follow-up question. So what are some of the regulatory or maybe programmatic hurdles for businesses to become an apprenticeship? Or is it pretty easy for a business to, if they seek it or have the criteria?
So we're a fairly small business, and I was able to create one from scratch with the help of the Technology Association of Iowa out of Des Moines. But essentially, the 30,000 foot overview is you create requirements for that apprentice. Ours is a 50-year program. Each year it's broken up by year, really. We've created requirements that they have to meet for each of those things. That doesn't mean that they have a year or that it's limited to a year. It's really at their own pace. So if they're meeting those requirements a lot faster than another peer, they can progress through those tiers a little faster. So it was just something that we did with the Technology Association of Iowa. It took us about 6 months to come up with the requirements and register them with the Department of Labor and all that. And now, actually, if somebody wants to offer the same apprenticeship that we have, which is the Help Desk Technician Apprenticeship, they can just literally sign a page saying they want to participate in the apprenticeship, and they can hire their apprentice and then just have them meet all those requirements as they go through the program. So it's fairly simple and fairly flexible to do it.
I might just add to that, all the services of the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship are free. There's no cost to any of that. And like at Hawkeye, we don't charge anything to help people get their apprenticeships set up, other than once they start taking classes, of course, is when we, you know, there's a fee for that. But as far as the overall getting an apprenticeship set up, there's no cost.
And Lacey's here locally with our Iowa Works office to help set up registered apprenticeship programs, can walk you through. She basically gets everything ready to go, and then she transfers it over to the Office of Apprenticeship to put it into the plan of the program, or what's called the standards of apprenticeship. So she tries to make it as easy as possible for all of you. We even have outlines for each occupation to show the typical skills that are needed for the on-the-job learning task, along with the classroom that's required for that given occupation. And you can mold and make that for what your business requires. Any other questions? To our middle school people in the room, I would say that you play a part in this as well, is really talking with your middle school teachers, your parents, the guidance counselors, and the students about the options of quality pre-apprenticeship in high school registered apprenticeship programs, and then registered apprenticeship programs, just to show that there are options out there. To really show that it can start as young as, depending on how young you want to start, if it's a junior or senior year, but making sure that students know all the career options that are out there. Because registered apprenticeship, the average salary in the state of Iowa is $60,820. That doesn't mean that everybody has $60,000 after finishing up a program, but that's the average yearly salary after the program is completed.
And they get salary as soon as they start, so.
Exactly.
Right.
First day on the job, they at least have to make minimum wage, but it's set by the employer to decipher what that starting wage is.
What is like, because I don't fully understand, what is like the difference between like an internship and an apprenticeship?
Huge difference, I would say.
Okay.
So for us, I consider an internship like a summer thing. Like after college, you kind of go take an internship. Oftentimes, they're not necessarily paid. This is literally a multi-year program that where you get assigned a mentor. So one person is responsible for your education. You're essentially following them, watching them do the job, and that's how you're essentially learning. It carries a salary, so full salary, or not a full salary, but salary based on skill, benefits like health insurance, really any benefit that a full employee would have. And it's a full-time occupation, so our apprentice expected to put in 40 hours a week. Sorry? Oh, that somebody said something. And so since it's a multi-year program, it's something that's meant more as a alternative to a college, that's meant more as, for us at least, something that somebody would pursue after a high school or a community college degree, or somebody that's looking to change careers, really. If you're into a career and really there isn't an easy way for you to transition to a different career because you have a family, you have responsibilities to pay, this becomes an option then at that point versus an internship.
And I'll also add that with registered apprenticeship, it's a guaranteed job because you have that position from day one, and after your program is done, you still have that position. Like an internship, you have that internship for a set duration of time, but you're not guaranteed a job. You have to perform well and then have the job offered to you. After your internship is completed, with the registered apprenticeship program, that full-time job has to be there.
And you have a credential that is known nationwide throughout the employers' sectors, in the different sectors.
So you do get something from the Department of Labor that says you completed this program, and as more apprenticeships are a thing, hopefully more employers are going to recognize it as a valid experience that they can utilize or use to hire. If honestly, if there was a help desk, if there was another company in town that was offering a help desk apprenticeship, and I was hiring for an open position, and I had a applicant that had gone through the program and somebody that had a 4-year degree, I would probably prefer the applicant that has gone through the program, because even with a 4-year degree, I still have to train that person up to do certain things that a college doesn't necessarily cover. So.
That's a good point. There's so much more to an apprenticeship because you're working with a diversified group. You're learning that you have to be on time all the time and be punctual at what you do. And there's so much more of an added to that.
Yeah, you definitely have to
life
perform.
skills you gain along the way as well.
Because you have to interact. So for us, for example, you have to interact with our clients. You have to be there when you say you're going to be there. You have to. At some point, you're expected to lead projects for clients that are working with us. So it is a really close to a experience and gaining on the job as you can get.
I'm going to throw out a question about funding. Tim or Igor, the 15B funding through Iowa Economic Development Authority, and Jerry, do one of you want to take the funding aspect?
For us, it's not, that doesn't make that big of a difference. We have one apprentice. I believe I've had to fill out more paperwork than I've gotten in my hourly wage back from the program. I let these guys talk about it, but we are not really doing it for the funding portion. We are actually paying and covering the classroom training portion of our apprentice. So when he finishes a class, he's got to present a passing grade, and then we reimburse him for the books and education. But we're not really in it for any state funding. Actually, I'm not even aware of any other than 15B state funding.
15B in our program in the Department of Corrections is very important to us because it all stems on how much you receive is from your curriculum that you do and how much on-the-job training you do, but mostly about the curriculum. So in our Department of Corrections, that federal funding from Iowa Economic Development Authority can add up to $100,000, and we use that toward curriculum. We also use a Perkins grant that is federally grants that we can pull in about 60 to 70,000, maybe 80,000 a year toward it. And then the Iowa expansion grant, or the apprenticeship expansion grant through the Iowa Works is also very instrumental in moving forward the sustainability of the program. So once you have an apprenticeship program and you're really running it and you're starting to get these people involved with it, participants going, strongly advise going out and applying for these grants because the money's available. And if you can use that grant money for your college tuition towards these people, or doing your own curriculum and purchasing a curriculum from maybe like technical publishing company or something like that, it essentially makes your program extremely reasonable to run.
Jerry, do you want to
Yeah, we use the 15B to help fund our program, the cost of instructors and that sort of thing. But anybody that has a registered apprentice within the state of Iowa is eligible to apply for that grant. Of all the 80 businesses that we have using Hawkeye's program, or there may be one or two, I would say, that don't pay for the training, but otherwise the businesses pay for the training. There's no rule. Department of Labor is neutral as far as, if the apprentice has to pay or the business has to pay, but typically, the apprentice is not by far not the highest paid person in the business. So typically, they're not, a lot of them are not in a position to pay for training, but, the businesses I work for, are really, they pay for it. So some of them I know probably may get some type of agreement that you know, that you'll work for me for a year or two after you're through, but that's, you know, that's between them and the apprentice. There's no rule as far as how you want to handle that.
I'd also add with funding through the state expansion grant through Iowa Workforce Development, we have funding opportunities for advanced manufacturing, IT, and healthcare entities. If you hire an apprentice after July 6th, 2018, you can get $350 to $500 depending on if an apprentice is in an underrepresented population. So there's additional funding out there to help with that related training, instruction, or that classroom component. And we're also going to be having some additional awards coming up here probably after the first of the year for quality pre-apprenticeship programs and high school registered apprenticeship programs, because we still have some pots of funding left over for those two specific entities. So be looking for different funding opportunities out there too if funding is something that you want to utilize to create your programs. Any other questions out there? Brenda?
So for people that are not trade and industry specific, I want to stress that the opportunities for apprenticeship are there. You might have to just word it differently. In healthcare, they're doing it, and as a nurse, we've been doing apprenticeships for years, and it's called a career ladder. You just have to change the terminology for businesses to understand, or that industry to understand apprenticeships. Like the different levels of apprenticeship in nursing is called a career ladder. So I would like to tell people, don't shy away from it if they think it's hard to get an apprenticeship, because it's really not that hard. And to get buy-in, you just have to change terminology. You just have to know what goes with each field. Like IT, you said you had to go very specific with knowing where things are at in that field. So like I said, healthcare is a little different, and talking to businesses, I had to reformat my words to let them understand what apprenticeship is, and it's not so scary now.
And can you kind of talk about where Iowa is in comparison to the programs, registered programs, compared to the nation? And then what kind of non-traditional programs have we been developing recently, I guess?
So I believe we're either second or third in the nation for apprenticeship programs, and I don't know 110% because that's U.S. Department of Labor has the statistics. On the state expansion grant, we're sixth in the country for creating programs and apprentices. So Iowa is leading the way and has been on the forefront of registered apprenticeship from the moment we started. The first one started back in the 1970s. So we have been at the cusp of registered apprenticeship and leading it. And we are growing into different career paths. So IT with help desk technician, there's information technology or information.
IT generalist.
Yep, IT generalist. There's software developer. On advanced manufacturing, we have CNC machine operators, industrial maintenance tech. Help me out with some of your
Welding.
Welding is
Yep,
one.
welding.
We're looking at one for press brake operators, which does not exist in the state yet, which is an interesting challenge. So Lacey's been helping us with that one.
And then we have on healthcare side, we have CNA, CMA, phlebotomy, home health, pharmacy tech, laboratory tech. There's about 25 different healthcare occupations that are out there. Advanced manufacturing is a little trickier to figure out if it's advanced or if it's just manufacturing, but we basically say that everything kind of goes together underneath there. But IT is growing as well. Igor talked about the competencies within healthcare and IT. We're looking at more of the competency-based model. So if they are competent and they learn and they're good with the task, then they can jump over the next task. But with time-based programs, you have an allocation of 5 hours for this task, 10 hours for this task. And you have to really be looking at how much time have you been putting into this individual. Where competencies-based programs, you can say, okay, they got it, let's move on. So they're trying to move with U.S. Department of Labor more towards competency-based programs rather than time-based. So then we're giving that skill skilled worker over to the employers as soon as possible. Did I answer all your questions?
You did, thank you.
I think in the state too, a beekeeper. One just went through
Oh yeah,
regular
beekeeper over in Davenport. Yep.
I've heard of a winemaker.
There is winemaker and a brewmaster.
And
I want to go in that one.
yeah.
So there's so many different occupations. I venture to say there's at least 5 occupations within each of your organizations or associations that you're in that you don't even know that is apprenticeable. There's over 1,400 occupations on the apprenticeable occupation list, and they're always coming out with more, and we can generate more. Just in the morning session, somebody asked about museum workers and somebody going from getting their bachelor's to their master's, and can we do an apprenticeship program with that? So that would be something that we'll bring back to the U.S. Department of Labor, because what the national office does, if they see a need, they want to be able to do that need. So they're working with you as the employer, just like we did with the brewmaster. That started here in Iowa. There was one company that said, we need a brewmaster, and then they went out and they had to find 10 companies across the United States to say, yes, this can be apprenticeable, and these are the general tasks that are needed for on-the-job learning in those classrooms. So it's really working together, because apprenticeship is for industry, built by industry. U.S. Department of Labor and Iowa Works were helped to tell you what regulations you have to kind of fall into, but it's not as many regulations as unemployment or OSHA. So we're really loose on what how we can mold and make. Just like Gator, you can even explain kind of first and foremost how we helped you, and then kind of the hurdles that we had to jump over.
So what we're building out 2 programs. We're doing one for CNC machinists. We have 15 openings right now that there's not enough of them to fill. I think the panel this morning did a really good job talking about that shortage in that area. And then we're also building one out for press brake. The CNC one, pretty easy. People are already using that apprenticeship program here in the state. We built the classroom component with Hawkeye because we want those apprentices to go through that 2-year CNC Hawkeye degree at Hawkeye, and we're going to pay for it. The press brake is a little bit more challenging. There is one, but it's old, and it's not in the state of Iowa. There's also an additional challenge because there's not direct classroom that's related to that one that really exists and is a good fit. So we have been working with Amy and Lacey to do, there's classes that are available at Kirkwood. So one of the challenges that we had is that we are in Hawkeye's service area, but Kirkwood offers the classes that we want. So because we're working with the Office of Apprenticeship, we are able to offer the classes through Kirkwood that we want to offer to go with that press brake apprenticeship. So it was working through all of the hoops and getting through all of the channels and making sure that it's what we need. Like as Amy mentioned, it is for industry, so it needs to be to fit our business. So that was kind of the short version of it. But working with them has been really helpful to help us get that program going.
How are we on time?
You're about 20 minutes.
20 minutes, oh wow. Well, we had a lot more questions in the beginning, or in the early session.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sometimes the toughest sell is with the parents. I think that's true with immigrant and refugee populations. So what is some of I think the biggest question is like the growth rate by sector sometimes. Or they'll hear something, it's like, well, where are they going to be 20 years from now? Is this going to still last? Is it sustainable? And then my other question was with the credit, the portability piece, was that NCRC, or what is the name of that portability where you get that certificate and you can go anywhere, that person can take their skills cross state or cross the country?
I can kind of field that first question. So there's definitely an uphill battle as far as branding is concerned when it comes to talking about apprenticeships. It's definitely something that we will just have to overcome over time as people see others go through the programs and be successful in them. I mean, with our apprentice currently, we have his friends reaching out and asking about the program and being interested in it just because they've seen him go through it. It's definitely something that people are either going to have to come up with different, more palatable terms for apprenticeship and the programs that they're going through, like, you know, the career ladder for nursing staff. But it's definitely something that hasn't been solved, so we're working on it. Hopefully, the demand will outpace the negative effects of the terminology, and, you know, change it into something good over time. Yeah, that's one of the things that we're working on trying to fix.
Jeff? I'm not to put you on the spot, but have you thought about how to reach out to parents with your quality career apprenticeship program?
Well, that's always an issue. I think, you know, for so long, and I'm probably as guilty as anybody of this, the idea was to have success, you had to have a 4-year college degree, and that was pushed for so many years. And it just became kind of the norm or the mindset. I think our biggest obstacle in regards to actually getting kids to the Career Center is often the parent. We can show them statistics, we can show them job opportunities, we can show them sustainability of the program, sustainability of that career, and somewhere in the back of their head, mom or dad may be pushing, you need to go to Iowa State, UNI, for your private college. And so it's really the mindset. You just have to, I think you almost have to like kill them with information and just overload and keep pushing and pushing and pushing. We have seen a change within our district in that realm, because, you know, for a while people were like, Waterloo Career Center, not even sure what that was. Now, you know, they're not only aware of it, but they're also aware of like the job opportunities and the career options that are out there, and not only that, but the career options and the benefits, the pay, that it truly is a career that's out there. But really, the biggest thing is just push information early, often. Any opportunity to get at conferences, counselors, you got to keep pushing it.
I do have 2 things to add to. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I lived for some year in Germany, and they've been doing it for decades, and there it is a completely acceptable, viable path. So just because we haven't done it like that in the past, it doesn't mean that we can't change the perceptions and the attitudes, and we're at the forefront of that. So I don't, you know, what will the field look like in 20, 30 years? Hopefully more like Germany than where we're at currently, but I know it can be done because it's being done somewhere else. And then I had another one, but it escaped me.
Well, and I can throw 2 more things that I just came to me when Igor was talking. The second one is the counselors honestly play a big role in helping kids choose their career pathways. I mean, starting in 8th grade, they have to do their 4-year plan for high school, and literally that person sitting down with them on their initial going through the 4-year plan is their counselor, either middle school counselor or their high school counselor, coming down and talking about what a 4-year plan looks like. One of the things, so, you know, I threw out there my title, and then I said, and also head of counseling. Well, there's a method to the madness of me overseeing the counseling unit. It's because I now have my thumb on them to push the career pathway stuff, that this is viable, you need to make sure they're aware of this. We are graduating way too many students from 4-year colleges that are underpaid, overeducated, working 3 jobs to make ends meet, when they could be walking out with a certification into a career, maybe with a 2-year degree, maybe right out of high school, making $50,000, $60,000 a year, and having a great career, and not having any college debt, and not having multiple jobs to support themselves. So counselors play a big role. And then, much like Igor, that thought just went right out the window.
I remembered my second one.
Let's see if mine comes back.
Yeah, you're gonna go after me. So there's a lot of people out there for whom college just is not the right path. They just, for whatever reason, don't do well in an educational setting. And they have gone that path maybe because their parents, or, you know, they just didn't force them, or just didn't see alternatives. I don't mean to rag on my partner, but he's one of those guys. He went to community college, and it just wasn't something that he was interested in. He is actually probably smarter than I am, worldly interested in like he's the type of guy that goes into down rabbit holes from K-pop to just a million different topics, who just never liked that school setting or college. I don't know where I'd be today without him, and I'm extremely lucky that he decided to come and work for me and then eventually become a partner in the business. But I don't even know how many people are out there that are like him, who are just falling between the cracks because they A, are not interested in college, or B, can't afford it, right? You know, it's just out of their grasp, which this could be definitely an alternative to a viable career path down the road. So.
And I threw right back in that window. The other one is, honestly, our partners, such as our business partners that are out pushing advanced manufacturing nights, stuff like that. Hawkeye community colleges and all our colleges that are promoting different career pathways than traditional four-year pathways. And then if you think about it, just our leadership in Des Moines, good, bad, or indifferent, no matter what your politics are, Future Ready Iowa, things like that have changed this mindset. Parents, didn't even know what Future Ready Iowa was. They, it's like, then you hear it over and over. And then, I hate to say this, through the entire political campaign season, didn't matter if it was a Democrat or Republican, they were all talking about, my dad was a pipe fitter, or I'm for skills trade. That was a great thing. Whether you got sick of the commercials or not, what did you hear more often than not? Skills trade, non-traditional jobs, which is also a big proponent, not just us pushing it to the parents, but it's, everybody hearing that same message.
I'm going to throw it over to Jerry, because I know the second part of your question was that the credential at the end. Jerry, do you want to talk a little bit about the credential that an apprentice receives?
Well, you may want to say your question again. I know you talked about the NCRC. That's a kind of a national test. And
Yep.
Lacey may know more about that, but so the main credential you get with an apprenticeship is that completion certificate at the end. So if you're in Iowa and you get a certificate of completion as an electrician, that's a national recognized credential. You can take it to any state in the United States and say, yeah, I am a journeyman electrician. I've completed an apprenticeship.
That's not a licensing, that's just a
No.
credential.
So the Department of Labor is a federal agency. They do not care about licensing. They're neutral as far as licensing. So here in Iowa, electricians and some of them have to be licensed. That's a whole different thing than on top of the apprenticeship. Say there's somebody that's doing heating and cooling in Montana. I know Montana doesn't require you to have a license, so you can go through that apprenticeship, become a journeyman HVAC person, recognized by the Department of Labor. Doesn't mean that you, how would I want to say it? In Iowa, you have to have that additional license, but that completion certificate is national recognized from the Department of Labor, and then depending on where you go, which state you're in, there may be additional.
I'll add to that. Most licensing, part of the credential to get a license is to go through an apprenticeship program, to go through training. So most apprenticeship programs have that, be able to get that. So I'll also add that credential is signed by the U.S. Department of Labor, Secretary of Labor. From the U.S. Department, Secretary of Labor signed that credential. So that credential not only it goes into the UK. I mean, you could take it into Germany, you can take it into different places of the world, but we say in the United States. I look at an apprentice and try and teach it. How do we teach our parents about apprenticeships? Everybody who's a parent's an apprentice at one time. They've been an apprentice. Anybody who has been a parent has graduated from that apprenticeship. You never graduate from that. Let me rephrase that. But you become a mentor to your kids. So the apprenticeship is very similar to that, except it's under a program standard by the U.S. Department of Labor that you have to follow the credentials. You have to meet year to year to year before you get that credential. So, and it's truly not a difficult program to run as a company, especially if you're running off a sponsorship, if you're running off pre-apprenticeships and stuff like that. You start that program like Igor did. He went to someone who helped him start that program to do that standard. There's many people out there that'll help you do that. And literally to run that program is so simple. It takes up so little of someone's time. It really does. Probably less than 2% of their year to run the company's apprenticeship program, depending on how involved the company is. As far as they're doing their own curriculum, it might be a little bit more. But anyway.
Just kind of fun facts. I researched apprenticeship on the internet. Of course, everything on the internet is true, right? But that actual term started in like 16 or 1700s back in, I think in Great Britain. So it said Paul Revere was an apprentice. So that apprentice model is tried and true. If we're still talking about it today, it's I think it's something that works.
That's where journeymen come from.
Yeah.
Someone who rode a horse and journeyed around the country that knew a whole bunch of trades and could go and fix it. That's exactly where that journeyman terminology comes from.
Do you have any last questions on that? Well, if you have any questions or looking at starting a quality career apprenticeship, a registered apprenticeship, or even a high school registered apprenticeship program, Lacey's here in the Cedar Valley to help get started. More of the complex programs I help her out with from Des Moines, but Lacey is your go-to individual of all things apprenticeship. We have some one-pagers for students, for employers, and then those business incentives that I mentioned before, if you're interested in any takeaways from this.
I think as far as educators as well, when you're talking to those parents, let them know that if they want to improve their life and do some earn and learn, those apprenticeship programs are open to them as well. That it's not just for students, adults are much needed in Iowa, we have a work shortage. So I know we're talking a lot about students, but we need parents in those registered apprenticeship programs too, to make sure that we're meeting our workforce needs.
And it's earn as you learn. So when you're done with that
That's the
journeyman
benefit.
term,
That is a huge
you have
benefit
zero college
for
loan or
adults, is that
zero
they're able to
payment.
go to work, earn an income, and get their credential at the same time. So when you are talking to those parents, please let them know that they're not just for students, that those programs are available for them as well.
And some colleges accept college credits if they want to start a college degree from apprenticeship programs.
Our apprentice is taking college classes as his instructor-led portion of it, and those are credits for him to keep, really. So.
Well, thank you for taking the time today, and thank you for attending the Future Ready Iowa Summit. Thank you.